Section 6. How and when does agency start? Customer or client? When does the relationship actually begin? In the previous sections, we learned that the Real Estate Agency Disclosure and Election (READ) form helps consumers understand the different types of agency relationships available in Arizona. We also explored the Buyer-Broker Exclusive Employment Agreement (BBEEA) and discovered how it creates the employment relationship between the buyer and the brokerage. Now that we understand both documents, a logical question follows: when does agency actually begin? The answer is one of the most important concepts every Arizona real estate professional must understand. Many new licensees believe agency begins the moment they answer a buyer's questions, unlock a lockbox, or show a home. Others assume that spending several weekends looking at houses automatically creates an agency relationship. While those activities certainly help build trust, they do not, by themselves, establish agency. Agency begins when both the consumer and the brokerage intentionally agree to create that relationship. Today, in Arizona, that relationship is typically established through a written buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement before a buyer begins touring homes with their agent. More importantly, both parties must understand the relationship they are creating. That's exactly why the READ form comes first. It educates the consumer before the agency relationship is established. Understanding this distinction protects everyone involved. It protects the buyer because they understand who is representing them. It protects the broker because expectations have been clearly established. And it protects the integrity of the transaction because everyone understands their respective roles before moving forward. A situation every agent will experience. Imagine you're hosting an open house on a Saturday afternoon. A young couple walks through the front door and immediately begins asking thoughtful questions. They want to know about financing, homeowners association fees, nearby schools, inspection periods, and how quickly homes are selling in the neighborhood. After spending nearly 30 minutes together, they smile and ask, "Would you mind showing us 3 more homes after this one?" Many new agents become excited at this moment. It feels like a new client relationship is beginning. An experienced broker, however, knows there is one important question that should be asked before scheduling another showing. Have either of you signed a buyer-broker agreement or any other written agreement with another real estate professional? Notice the wording of the question. You're not asking whether they've spoken with another agent. You're not asking whether they've attended another open house. You're asking whether they have entered into a written representation agreement. That single question can prevent misunderstandings, commission disputes, and ethical issues later in the transaction. When another agent already represents the buyer, suppose the buyer's answer, "Yes, we've already signed an agreement with another agent, but we're not very happy." This situation happens more often than many new licensees realize. Perhaps the buyer feels communication has broken down. Maybe the agent is unavailable, or perhaps the personalities simply are not a good fit. Even so, the existing agreement deserves respect. Professional realtors understand that another broker may have already invested considerable time educating the buyer, researching properties, writing offers, or negotiating on their behalf. Rather than attempting to interfere with that relationship, encourage the buyer to first discuss their concerns with their current agent or broker. If they ultimately decide to end that relationship, any termination should be handled according to the terms of their written agreement before a new agency relationship begins. Professional courtesy between brokers ultimately benefits consumers as well. When no agency relationship exists, now consider a different response. "No, we've talked to a few agents, but we haven't signed anything." This creates a wonderful opportunity, not to immediately slide paperwork across the table, but to begin educating the buyer. The best buyer consultations don't begin with signatures. They begin with conversations. Explain what professional representation means. Discuss your responsibilities. Describe how you'll help them analyze homes, negotiate contracts, coordinate inspections, monitor deadlines, and protect their interests throughout the transaction. As buyers begin to understand everything their realtor does behind the scenes, they naturally begin to appreciate the value of professional representation. Only then does the buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement become the natural next step in beginning a professional relationship. Successful agents don't sell paperwork. They demonstrate value. Agency creates fiduciary duties. The moment agency begins, your responsibilities change dramatically. You're no longer simply providing general real estate information. You are now representing your client's interests. That means you owe fiduciary duties such as loyalty, obedience to lawful instructions, confidentiality, disclosure, reasonable care and diligence, and accounting. These duties influence every recommendation you make throughout the transaction. Should your client offer full price? Should they ask for repairs? Should confidential financial information be shared with the other side? Every answer must be guided by one simple question: what is in my client's best interest? That is the heart of agency. Agency is built on trust. Think back to Sarah, the first-time homebuyer we met in the previous section. She didn't become your client because you unlocked a front door. She didn't become your client because you answered questions about financing. She became your client because the two of you agreed to begin a professional relationship based on trust, communication, and clearly defined expectations. That relationship didn't happen accidentally. It happened intentionally. The paperwork documented it. Your professionalism earned it. The most successful realtors understand that agency isn't really about forms. It's about relationships. The forms simply provide the legal framework for a relationship built on honesty, competence, communication, and trust. Those qualities are what transform a first-time buyer into a lifelong client, and often into someone who refers their family, friends, and coworkers to you for years to come. As your real estate career grows, you'll likely discover that your greatest source of business won't come from advertising. It will come from the trust you build with every client you represent. Agency is where that trust begins. Broker tip: never rush into paperwork. The strongest agency relationships begin with education, not signatures. When buyers understand the value you bring to the transaction, signing the buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement becomes the natural beginning of a professional relationship instead of feeling like an obligation. Online discussion question: why is it important to determine whether a buyer already has a buyer-broker agreement before agreeing to show property? Answer: determining whether a buyer already has a representation agreement helps avoid interfering with another brokerage's agency relationship, reduces the possibility of commission disputes, and demonstrates professionalism within the real estate industry. Question: why do successful buyer consultations focus on education before paperwork? Educating buyers helps them understand the value of professional representation. Once buyers appreciate the services and fiduciary duties their agent provides, they are more comfortable entering into a written representation agreement. Question: how does trust contribute to a successful agency relationship? Answer: trust encourages open communication, strengthens the client relationship, and often results in repeat business and referrals. Buyers who trust their agent are more likely to seek advice, follow recommendations, and remain loyal throughout the transaction.